Yo, what's up guys? Today I'll be sharing 10 things that you must know before opening a film or photo studio. These are things that I wish I knew before I started, and it would have saved me a lot of time and money and stress. So if you're thinking about doing this, take notes and leave a comment if you have any questions. Always happy to help. And if you don't mind taking a second to subscribe to this channel, that would absolutely mean the world to me. I'll be giving out a lot of free game over the next few months, so make sure you stay updated. Tip number 1 is do not settle for a bad location, even if the price is cheap. Make sure your location hits all of the criteria, such as parking, AC, security, it's safe, it's well lit, it's in a nice area. Don't get tempted by low rates. Make sure you're actually settling on a decent location for your studio. Next tip is do not copy somebody else's idea. I see this a lot where one studio pops up and then another one pops up just like it, and that's not going to work. Just because one thing works for one person doesn't mean it's going to work for the next. So make sure you're coming into the market with something original, something that hasn't been seen before. Not to say you can't take inspiration from other spaces, but never ever copy an idea just outright, because one, you're going to get called out for it, and two, people are going to go with the original. So make sure you're coming in to the market with something fresh. This next tip is super important, and if I would have known, it would have saved me a lot of time and money, and that is to be clear on your vision before you start. Ideally before you have a lease. If not, as soon as you get the lease, get to work right away, because time is money once you got it. I thought my first studio would take me 2 weeks to finish, and it ended up taking me 2 months, just because I was all over the place with what I wanted it to look like. And I was thrifting everything too. I was doing OfferUp and Facebook Marketplace and Craigslist, so that was a part of it. It was really hard to kind of find everything, so it's understood why it took so long. But if I knew the vision of what I wanted just a little bit sooner, I feel like I could have got it done sooner. So get crystal clear with your vision before you start. Write it down, create mock-ups in Photoshop, draw it out. This will save you lots of time. And this next thing is something that I wish I did from the beginning, and that is offer add-ons and packages right away. When the studio is not being rented, it's empty. So you should be offering, photo shoot packages, dog photo shoot packages, maternity photos, engagement photos, music video packages. Yes, it can be just passive where it's just rented out, but you have this asset of a space, so you might as well just make the most of it. And even if you're not the one delivering on the services, you can hire people that to be the photographers and videographers, but it all goes through your space, and you essentially become a one-stop shop. And add-ons could be anything such as lighting, lens filters, grip equipment, specialty props, anything of that sort. The little things definitely add up. This next tip is to build relationships with the guests that come through to your studio. Oftentimes they'll be creatives themselves, photographers, directors, videographers, makeup artists, models. So just make sure you're staying in touch with everybody, get their Instagram, get their number. Oftentimes they'll refer you, or you'll have an opportunity and can refer them. So it's just, a really, really cool way to network and meet other creatives in your community. This next tip is to build your social media presence, have your guests tag you in their photos, and then curate that content and repost it on your own page. So with my studios, I had 2 pages going, and I didn't have to create really any original content for them. The people that came into my studio just tagged us on Instagram, and we reposted their photos, and everybody loved it because we essentially kind of became a platform for these photographers. So make sure you build a social media page right from the start. You can offer, promos and giveaways through that. You don't want to rely on just Peerspace or Splacer for bookings, because if Peerspace goes out of business, there goes your business. So you want to make sure that you're building, an email list outside of Peerspace. You're building your social media following, and you're doing marketing efforts outside of them. This next tip is to be very clear on your rules and have your guests sign a waiver to agree to them. And if they break any of these rules, there are fees involved. So you can list out all those fees. If somebody smokes, if somebody breaks furniture, somebody spills something on the carpet, every rule should have a fee attached to it if they break it. This next tip kind of goes off of the last one, and that is have guests check in, and through that build your email list. We use a service called Jotform, and people scan a QR code when they get to our studio, and it takes them to a liability form, it takes them to the rules, and then also a check-in. And then once they complete that, it redirects to our Instagram page. This next tip is to maintain a consistent and well thought out customer experience for your clients. Make sure everybody just feels welcomed, safe, secure, inspired, and then that will also reflect in your Peerspace reviews, and those are super important, because before anybody buys anything or books anything, they're going to read the reviews. So some things that we like to do is always have cold water available for free in the fridge. We have mints available. We have a clean bathroom, and we also have a studio rep on site just in case they need anything. All right, this next one is super important and really hits close to home, and that is make sure you don't get into a shady lease agreement. You know, something to consider when leasing a space is, do you want to be in a 1-year lease, 2-year, 3-year, 4-year, 5-year? Is it just try it out for a year and then see what happens? Or is it you're gonna lease a space for 3 years and figure it out no matter what? Because at my first studio, the one that I was filming my previous videos at, they actually raised our rent, you know, by almost 300%. Which is crazy. Our rent was $1,750 and then they raised it to $4,500 on me. And that is because my 1-year lease ended, and because of that, they could do anything they want with the price. And I don't think they really liked the nature of my business because I had so many people in and out, or maybe they caught on to how much money I was making with it. And you know, we were grossing anywhere from $5,000 to $6,000 a month with that studio, but paying $4,500 in rent was just not worth the headache. So unfortunately I had to close down that studio, you know, tore everything up and took it out. So now I just have the Time Machine, which is the 3,000 square foot space in DTLA, and I'm in a 3-year lease agreement with that one, and my landlord can only raise the rent by a certain amount every year. So that is just something to consider. If you lease a space for 1 year, there's a big chance that your landlord could raise the price exponentially for you once the lease expires, if they want to do that, because they can. There's no rent control for commercial properties, at least here in LA. And even be upfront about that. Like, hey, you know, I know this guy that leased a space and then after the first year, his rent got raised like crazy. Like, you guys gonna do that? And if they're gonna do it, they probably won't tell you, you know what I'm saying? But at least just feel out the vibes, feel out, you know, test the waters and see what they say to that question. Again, there was nobody on YouTube talking about this when I opened up my studio, so a lot of the stuff I just had to learn through trial and error. And unfortunately, you know, my very first studio, I don't have it anymore because of that big lesson. So yeah, learn from my experiences and to just be aware of that. All right, I think this is 11. This is a little bonus tip, and that is to start small. My first studio was absolutely amazing because the rent wasn't too high. Like, even if for any reason we didn't make any money through rentals, I could still pay it through my other work and it would be fine. You know, not ideal, but it would be fine. Versus, you know, my second studio, the Time Machine, the rent there is about $4,000. So if I were to just pay for that out of pocket without making any money from it, like, that wouldn't be very fun. And because the rent is so high, like, you know, my first studio was a lot more profitable than my second one is. If I were to do it again, I would probably open up just another smaller space, you know, 1,000 square feet or less, and just design it really cool and rent it out for a good rate. So just make sure that you're managing your risk, and especially if you're just getting started, I would highly recommend starting with something small, you know, 1,000 to 2,000 square feet at the most. So yeah, these are my tips. It was kind of just straight to the camera. I just wanted to, you know, share from my experiences, share from my heart, and hopefully help some of you, you know, avoid some sticky situations if you consider opening up a film and photo studio. And if you have any questions in your journey or in your process, please leave a comment, send me a message on Instagram at Esparza, and I would be so happy to help you out. So please leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks, guys.